She was called the worst mother in Hollywood. Her reputation destroyed. Her children caught in the crossfire. But what her ex-husband did not know. She had been documenting everything. And when she finally struck back, nobody saw it coming. 2005. Denise Richards files for divorce while pregnant with her second child. What should have been a private family matter became a public spectacle that would haunt her for years. The accusations started almost immediately. Unstable. Neglectful. Dangerous. These words were planted in every tabloid, every entertainment show, every online forum. But here is what nobody understood at the time. Every attack, every leaked story, every so-called anonymous source had a pattern. And Denise? She was quietly collecting receipts. See, when you are married to someone for 3 years, you learn things. You learn how they operate. You learn their weaknesses. And most importantly, you learn exactly what they are hiding. The question that would take years to answer was simple. What happens when the victim refuses to stay silent? To understand why this revenge was so devastating, you need to understand the battlefield. Her ex was not just any celebrity. He was at the peak of his career. Beloved. Powerful. Connected. And he had something Denise did not have. A platform that reached millions. Every interview became a character assassination. Every public appearance included subtle digs about her parenting. Every major outlet received anonymous tips that painted her as the villain. Pause twos, but here is where it gets interesting. Denise noticed something the public missed entirely. The timing of these attacks was never random. They always came right before custody hearings. Right before important court dates. Right before she was about to gain ground. If this is already making your blood boil, drop a like because this story is just getting started. Someone was coordinating a campaign. And Denise was building a timeline that would eventually expose everything. 2008. 3 years into the battle. Denise does something unexpected. She stops fighting in the press entirely. No more statements. No more defenses. Complete silence. SFX, dramatic pause, the tabloids interpreted this as surrender. Her critics claimed she had given up. Even some of her supporters thought she had finally broken under the pressure. But those close to her knew the truth. She was not surrendering. She was repositioning. Think about it from a different angle for a moment. When your opponent is using the media as a weapon, what is the most powerful countermove? You remove yourself from their battlefield entirely. You stop giving them ammunition. You stop reacting to their provocations. And most importantly, you let them get comfortable. Because comfortable people make mistakes. And her ex was about to make the biggest mistake of his entire public career. Here is where the stakes get real. This was never just about reputation. Children were involved. 2 young daughters watching their parents tear each other apart in the public eye. Every accusation, every headline, every leaked photograph affected them directly. Denise knew that winning the press war meant nothing if her daughters were traumatized in the process. So her strategy shifted. Instead of fighting for public opinion, she focused entirely on the courtroom. On documentation. On building an ironclad case that could not be spun or distorted by tabloid coverage. And this is when she discovered something that would change everything. Pause twos, through the discovery process and their ongoing legal battles, Denise's legal team uncovered communication records. Text messages. Emails. Call logs. A paper trail that connected anonymous tabloid tips directly to her ex's inner circle. But that was just the beginning. What they found next would expose a pattern of behavior that went far beyond their divorce. But that is not even the worst part. SFX, dramatic sound, what nobody expected was the source of the most damaging information. It came from someone inside. His own circle. A former assistant who had witnessed years of behavior that the public never saw. The manipulation. The calculated media campaigns. The way stories were planted to coincide with legal proceedings. This assistant had kept detailed notes. Dates. Times. Names. Specific instructions about which reporters to contact and what narratives to push. And after years of silence, they were finally ready to talk. Think about that for a second. Your entire public image, carefully constructed over decades, suddenly at risk because someone you trusted kept receipts. If you want to see how this all unravels, make sure you are subscribed because we are just getting to the good part. The walls were closing in. And Denise's years of patience were about to pay off in ways nobody could have predicted. 2012. 7 years after the initial divorce. The court receives a sealed filing that will never be made fully public. But what leaked was enough to shift the entire narrative. For the first time, major entertainment outlets began questioning the stories they had published for years. Sources who had been quoted anonymously started distancing themselves from previous statements. The machine that had spent nearly a decade destroying Denise's reputation was suddenly turning on itself. Pause twos, and then it got worse for him. Other people started coming forward. Not about the divorce specifically, but about a pattern. A pattern of manipulation. A pattern of targeting anyone who crossed him. A pattern that suddenly made all those years of accusations against Denise look very different. Drop your prediction in the comments right now. Did you see this coming? Because what happened next shocked even the people closest to the situation. Here is where karma delivered. 2017. More than a decade after the divorce. The public perception has completely reversed. Denise Richards is no longer the villain of the story. She is the survivor. The truth teller. The mother who protected her children while enduring unimaginable public attacks. Her ex. His reputation is in ruins. Not because of anything Denise said publicly, but because the pattern she documented became impossible to ignore. Other voices joined the chorus. Other stories emerged. The facade crumbled under the weight of its own contradictions. SFX, dramatic sound, and the most satisfying part. Denise never had to become the aggressor. She simply waited. Documented. Protected her children. Let the truth reveal itself on its own timeline. I want you to remember this part. Sometimes the most powerful revenge is not about attacking your enemy. It is about having the patience to let them destroy themselves. Today, Denise Richards has rebuilt everything. Her career. Her reputation. Her relationship with her daughters. She remarried in 2018 to someone who stood by her through the final years of the legal battles. Someone who saw the real her, not the tabloid version. Her ex continues to face consequences from choices made years ago. The pattern that Denise first identified has become public knowledge. The manipulation that once seemed so effective has been exposed for what it always was. Desperation disguised as power. Looking back, the most remarkable thing about this story is not the revenge itself. It is the restraint. Denise had countless opportunities to fight dirty. To leak damaging information. To become the aggressor. She chose a different path. And that choice is exactly why karma ultimately delivered in her favor. The universe has a way of rewarding those who refuse to become what hurt them. But here is what most people miss about stories like this. The revenge was never really the point. The point was protecting what mattered most. Her children. Her integrity. Her sense of self. Everything else, the public vindication, the career revival, the reputation restoration, those were just byproducts of staying true to who she was. And that is the real lesson here. When someone wages a campaign to destroy you, the temptation is to fight back with the same weapons. To become just as ruthless. Just as manipulative. Just as willing to destroy. Denise refused. And in refusing, she preserved something her ex never could. Her character. 20 years later, her daughters have a mother they can be proud of. Not because she won, but because of how she won. That matters more than any headline ever could. The final piece of this puzzle involves something that happened just recently. In 2023, Denise gave a rare interview where she discussed those dark years for the first time in detail. No anger. No bitterness. Just clarity. She explained that the hardest part was never the public attacks. It was watching her daughters grow up in the shadow of someone else's narrative. Hearing them ask why daddy said those things about mommy. That was the wound that took longest to heal. But here is what she said that stuck with me. Pause twos, she said her daughters eventually read everything. Every article. Every accusation. Every leaked document. And they came to their own conclusions. Not because Denise told them what to think. But because the truth, when you see enough of it, tells its own story. And what story did they see? A mother who never gave up. Never became the villain. Never stopped fighting for them. So what can we learn from all of this? First, patience is the most underrated weapon in any conflict. Denise waited 7 years before the tide began to turn. Most people would have given up after 7 months. Second, documentation is everything. Every text. Every email. Every timeline inconsistency. Build your case before you need it. Third, and this is the most important one, your character is your ultimate revenge. When you refuse to become what hurt you, you preserve something your enemy can never take. Your integrity. And finally, karma is not always instant. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it takes decades. But patterns always reveal themselves eventually. The truth always surfaces. And the people who build their power on lies eventually run out of lies to tell. That is not